Can a story written in 1782 about French aristocrats destroying each other for sport still hit just as hard when you put it in a Manhattan prep school and hand the reins to teenagers? Apparently, yes. Today we're looking at how Cruel Intentions pulled off one of the sharpest literary adaptations of the 90s, and why this story refuses to age no matter how many centuries it crosses. For those unfamiliar, Les Liaisons Dangereuses was written by Choderlos de Laclos in 1782 and told entirely through letters. Two former lovers, the Marquise de Merteuil and the Vicomte de Valmont, pass correspondence back and forth as they scheme to seduce and destroy the people around them for entertainment. Merteuil challenges Valmont to ruin a 15-year-old girl named Cécile, while Valmont sets his sights on the devoutly religious Madame de Tourvel, wanting not just to sleep with her, but to make her abandon her husband and her god for him. The book was so scandalous, it sold out in 2 weeks. Marie Antoinette kept a copy at Versailles, and then France banned it, burned it, and the Vatican kept it on their list of forbidden books until 1966. In 1999, Roger Kumble translated this into Cruel Intentions. The Marquise became Kathryn Merteuil, a Manhattan prep school golden girl hiding a cocaine habit behind a crucifix. The Vicomte became her stepbrother, Sebastian Valmont, a charming predator who keeps a journal of his sexual conquests. Their target, Annette Hargrove, the headmaster's daughter who published an article in 17 magazine about waiting until marriage. The bet, the seduction, the manipulation, and the fallout follow the same blueprint Laclos laid out over 2 centuries earlier. The setting just traded Parisian salons for Upper East Side penthouses. Here's the thing about Les Liaisons Dangereuses that makes it so adaptable. It was never really about 18th century France. It was about what happens when powerful people have too much time and too few consequences. Kumble understood that the social architecture of elite Manhattan teenagers in the late 90s mirrored the French aristocracy almost perfectly. Trust funds replaced inherited titles, prep school hallways replaced gilded ballrooms, and the currency stayed exactly the same: reputation. Production team leaned into this parallel deliberately. Director of photography Theo van de Sande treated the film like a period piece, studying the framing of the graduate and European filmmakers like Bertolucci. Costume designer Denise Wingate dressed Sebastian in dark tones throughout, only introducing brightness when he was genuinely falling in love. Kathryn's bedroom was designed in cold blues and silver to reflect her calculating nature. Characters used rotary phones instead of cell phones. Production designer John Gary Steele put it plainly, "I didn't want it to feel like a young, bright teen film, because it's not. It's very tragic. Everyone basically loses." Kumble wasn't making a teen movie dressed up as literature. He was making literature dressed up as a teen movie. One of the sharpest shifts in the adaptation is what happens to the letters. In Laclos's novel, letters are the entire engine of the plot. Characters write to confess, manipulate, seduce, and ultimately expose each other. They function as social media before social media existed, a way to perform your identity for one audience while concealing it from another. In Cruel Intentions, the letters become Sebastian's journal, a private record of his conquests and schemes. It serves the same narrative function, captures truth that public performance hides, and it becomes the weapon that destroys Kathryn's facade in the end. In the novel, Merteuil's downfall comes through leaked correspondence, and she's punished with smallpox, the loss of an eye, and exile. In the film, Kathryn's downfall comes through photocopied journal pages handed out at a funeral. Same principle, different delivery system. Reputation destroyed by the very record-keeping that was supposed to preserve power. Where the adaptation gets genuinely interesting, and where the feminist conversation gets complicated, is in who actually suffers and who walks away. In the novel, every woman pays. Cécile is sent to a convent. Tourvel dies of heartbreak. Merteuil is publicly destroyed. Meanwhile, Valmont dies but is remembered as a redeemed man. And Danceny, who had his own affair with Merteuil, walks away completely unscathed. Some readers have argued that Valmont's deathbed forgiveness wasn't genuine change at all, but his final act of manipulation, ensuring he dies the hero, while Merteuil lives on as the villain. Cruel Intentions partially corrects this and partially repeats it. The film's biggest improvement is giving Annette and Cécile actual agency. In the novel, it's a man who releases Merteuil's letters. In the film, it's Annette who publishes the journal and Cécile who helps distribute it. The pawns get the last move. Annette doesn't die of heartbreak. She drives off in Sebastian's Jaguar with his sunglasses on and his notebook in the passenger seat. The film still stumbles with Kathryn. She and Sebastian play the same game, both manipulative, both cruel, both operating from the same playbook. The difference is that Sebastian gets a redemption arc through falling in love. He sacrifices himself and dies a hero. Kathryn gets publicly humiliated. As she says in the film's best monologue, "It's okay for guys like you in court to fuck everyone, but when I do it, I get dumped for innocent little twits like Cécile. God forbid I exude confidence and enjoy sex." She's not a good person, but she's not wrong. The double standard that Laclos dissected in 1782 is still breathing in its 1999 adaptation, and the film doesn't always seem to know it. Arguably, Cruel Intentions can be described as a film that somehow sets feminism back and still manages to be the greatest Shakespearean masterpiece Shakespeare never wrote. That contradiction is exactly why it endures. It doesn't comfort you. It doesn't wrap up neatly. It shows you a system that rewards performance and punishes sincerity, and then it asks you to sit with that. La Clos did the same thing in 1782, and the French aristocracy collapsed 7 years later. Kumble did it in 1999, and we're still watching. The story survives every century because the conditions that create it never actually disappear. Wealth still insulates, reputation still controls, women are still punished for the same appetites men are celebrated for, and someone is always keeping a record that could burn it all down. This is Ladies First, watching women in movies. Here, we empower women by reviewing and discussing films that highlight their stories, struggles, and achievements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.